Kojo Yankson, and also a man who had done a lot of work within the party. He had represented them at some point in time too. But more importantly, he's a member of the National Council of Elders of the NPP, complaining about what happened in there. The same complaints have been leveled by Mr. Alan Kyeremanten. You can also say another candidate has also complained about this. One of the other people who also complain about the processes leading to the next election is also Kojo Yankson. Exactly what's happening within the NPP. Why are there so much complaint about what's supposed to be the right standards, the right systems that are supposed to be followed in that party? There's something that Alan Kyeremanten said. Where did the party go wrong? How come such a party is degenerating to this level? That question. Beyond that, he's also been talking about his future in Ghanaian politics. In that letter he sent to the people of this republic, withdrawing himself from the race, he complained bitterly about intimidation, about the entire super delegates election being skewed in favor of one person. You've heard about this conversation previously. The 8 of us against one person. The establishment candidate was the phenomenon that was raised. But if Mr. Alan Kyeremanten has withdrawn today, continues to do the things that some are suggesting. I've heard posts that Benepsin say he's 70% sure Mr. Alan Kyeremanten is going independent. Is it really the case? Are all the people who support Mr. Alan Kyeremanten today for him going independent, or is just a matter of some opinion, some thoughts which will not materialize at all? Some have brought up the history of Mr. Alan Kyeremanten in this particular one. Others are saying that the very system that's being put in place in the NPP is preventing what the political parties had said, that their conduct should be done in a democratic manner. Is it democratic? Is it promoting the development of this country? Is it inuring to the democratic dividends that we want as a people? And if internal elections are going to be done this way, how will they affect the future of the NPP? Now, people have brought old issues like what happened in 1979. If you are old enough, like my very self, you know what happened, right? In that election, which Liman emerged winner and became the president subsequently, there was the front, the Dankwa Buzia front was broken. We had Power Willis team and also Victor Usu team. People have even had ethnocentric traits to those teams anyway. Will they play up any roles in this one? Because it was predominantly seen as Asante versus Achim. Because Pauli was from the Achim area, then Victor Usu was from the Asante area. And people actually thought that it was really the movement of the Paulis that was supposed to make it through, but the Victor Usus made it difficult for them to continue their future. Kojo is already with me in studio. Winston is also on the phone joining us. Mr. Amoah.
Raymond.
You are welcome very much. I mean, the people of this republic are interested in your thoughts. First and foremost, I mean, he is a poster of credible nature sometimes. That's Benepsin. You cannot dispute the fact that he believes 70%, he is convinced, 70% sure that Mr. Kyeremanten will go independent. You have ears and eyes in corners that some people do not know. Do you think that this is a reality?
Well, Roman, I mean, a lot of things would happen in politics. So, Alan Kyeremanten himself opened, his decision to withdraw to lots of speculations when he said in the coming weeks, he's going to tell us what his role will be in Ghana's politics.
In Ghana's politics. He didn't say NPP politics, though. Because where we are now, we are looking for flag bearer.
Exactly. So when you come out with that, everybody will speculate and say, one, is he thinking of forming a political party? Two, is he thinking of running independent? Three, is he still thinking of remaining in the NPP? Or four, maybe his decision to now see himself as a statesman, and so we'll just begin to comment on issues irrespective of partisanship. These are all avenues that have been up. But the moment you talk about your role in Ghana's politics, and already I've seen people sharing videos of, how superstitious we are. Prophet has said this. Let me put that one aside because
yes, there's a lot of that also going around on social media, right?
Exactly. It's not something I would put up. But I think that statement from Alan Kyeremanten is very pregnant. But as seasoned as he is, I am sure Alan Kyeremanten would appreciate that in this country called Ghana, you cannot win an election as an independent candidate. I haven't seen some before. It has not happened in this country. At best, you spoil a major party's chances of winning. However, the evidence does not support even this conclusion, because we have seen parties breaking away. I am not convinced that the NDC lost the 2000 election because the NRP had broke away from the NDC. I am not convinced.
Yeah, Gustav's reform was not really a reform.
Yes, I'm not convinced that was the reason. Because if we were to even the vote of the National Reform Party, it still wouldn't have given the NDC the more than 50% votes they needed. Same in 2008, DFP, they broke away. But the NDC eventually won the election. So, Raymond, I'm sure you would know that it is going to be very difficult for him to win an election as an independent candidate. Now, if you were to contest as an independent candidate, and the NPP goes to the polls, and they are unable to win, you will no longer be considered as a possible savior.
Yeah.
So if you are Alan Kyeremanten,
you lose all bargaining chip your entire life in politics, yeah. Unless you become a pastor.
Point in time, where the NPP beg your pardon, is going into the 2024 election as the underdog, based on economic conditions and based on an 8-year cycle. And as the reason they say breaking the egg. However, let me again state that politics follows no formula. Yes. Anything can happen. So let me continue. It's in his own interest to critically examine what that role would be. If he ever has dreams again of becoming president of this country, then the next weeks will be very, very, very crucial. And Raymond, we have heard things, and that is why I'll end here for now.
Now, it's quite interesting, right? I mean, I think for political watchers, everybody's sitting on tentacles because if he moves out, even if he's taking, and one of the things that people say about Alan Kyeremanten is the Asante backing of a sort, which has been projected right from the beginning, not just because of him, because he was linked to the Kofor section, which was predominantly still an Asante backing grouping. The biggest votes in this country are from the Ashanti region. The NPP, when they put together the Ashanti votes, sometimes it clears like 4 regions. Indeed, there was a time that the NPP could win election with just Ashanti and Eastern region, winning 2 out of 10 regions anyway. So that's equally a very strange arrangement across the country. So that may be what they are talking about. Way back then, when the division between the UNC and the PFP happened, the Victor Osu group still held on to Asante. And of course, if you see the votes that spread across the country for Liman, without that Victor Osu group holding on to Asante, I'm not sure Liman would have won the country. So that analysis is still coming in. Would it be possible, Kojo, that because I've seen very key members of his team, Collins Osu Amoah, former Mention Not MP, Davis OPK, Davis Opoko also put up on social media the elephant symbol indicating that, well, we are not going anywhere. We are still members of the NPP no matter what happens. Assuming he proceeds to count on the thinking that I am strong enough and have a backing. If you are voting in Ashanti today, would you prefer an affiliation with the NPP or to Alan Kyeremanten? No, I'm pushing to that.
No, I think that's the question.
Yeah.
What you've asked is really the question. It's the same question as if Alan Kyeremanten goes independent, does he stand a chance in hell?
Yeah.
That's the same question you've asked. Because his his confidence in his ability to become a president has been predicated on this support that he believes he has from the Asante bloc and from the Kufuor establishment. The point is this. Did he ever have...
I'm sure that you have a difficulty with your microphone. I'll come back to you. Right. Yes, okay. Yeah. And so that means I'm doing this with Winston, and Kojo, when he's back on, I should be able to do that. But the question I was asking you, because, see, politics is a game of numbers. No matter what happens, you drill down, not even to policy, to numbers. Policies don't go to the polls. It's the people, when they vote for you, that you get authority to do whatever you want to do. You certainly must count on the grouping to be able to do whatever you want to do. Even if you want to negotiate with the current leaders of the party and say, see, listen, I'm coming from this powerful position. It should be based on numbers. If I go to the party today and say, listen, give me a position. They ask me, what is your constituency? They're not asking me where my hometown is. They're asking me, what do I control in terms of numbers? That if they let me go, that number is also not going to be fruitful. Okay, now I think your microphone is fixed.
Thank you. So I was saying that you really asked the central question here, okay? Do the voters in the Asante bloc, would they rather stay, with their allegiance to the NPP, or do they have an allegiance to Alan?
Yeah.
You see, Alan has always believed that they have an allegiance to him. Not just the Asante bloc, but the Kufuor bloc of the party.
Yeah.
Right. The question is, was that always not an illusion? Was Alan right to believe that they have an allegiance to him? Look at his numbers, right? Since the first...
Because some of the super delegates are supposed to be, and it's not the funny part. So if I'm, let's say, current energy minister, Pio Asante, Apejafie, connection, very close to Menchia, the thinking would have been, loyalty would have been to... But if I want to be vice president, why would I be more interested in promoting a fellow Asante to be president when the likelihood that I'll be vice president will never happen? Okay, not happen anytime soon.
Yeah.
I hope you get my point. And he's not the only one. The education minister, the majority leader, the first deputy. So, a certain belief that now it is our turn to be running mate. It's been established, which will break a certain front there.
So you see, that's the point I was actually trying to make. That the numbers have never supported this idea that Alan has the permanent backing of that bloc. And the truth is, look, if Alan decides to go, and I love this show, I'm so glad I'm able to be politically incorrect. If Alan decides to go independent, it would mean that he has a very huge ego when it comes to his belief that he should be president. That he believes it so strongly that he is willing to scupper the fortunes of the party on whose back he has risen to. That is if he has even risen. On whose back he has traveled to wherever he is today. If he's willing to scupper the fortunes of that party in a bid to become president.
But is it not Ghana first?
Which
political parties are roots to reach the ultimate game. Is Alan not first and foremost supposed to be serving Ghana?
Right. So does Ghana want Alan to serve? That's where the political...
Okay, I get your point.
Look, does Ghana want Alan to serve?
Yeah, quickly, let me hear Winston, so that Alan does not go off. So, yes, please join us here.
The point by Kojo that Ashanti region, the numbers don't support. I am sorry. There are no numbers. There are no numbers. These are interests. Okay?
Okay.
And Raymond, you're very right. These are persons wanting to be, vice president. These are persons who probably have been promised vice president. And that is why I made the point today. I made a point yesterday on the Solomon issue. That if John Boydu had gone through a super delegate election, where you had the regional chairman and executive committee declaring support for him, he would have had about 70 to 80%. But what happened?
He saw him terribly. Yeah.
You saw him. So as for that one, we've all agreed that the super delegate, election is not what you use to measure this. You've had some of the researchers indicate that their own research, it was going to be a close race than what we saw in the super delegate. But this is the other point. This is the other point. You have seen David Opoku make the point that for them, they believe in Alan Kyeremanten as a member of the NPP. A member of the NPP. So they will be with him so long as he's in the NPP.
Okay, yeah.
That sends you a certain signal. And this is the point that I want to make. As seasoned as Alan Kyeremanten is, I know that he will make the right decision. And the right decision is a decision that will not jeopardize his presidential ambition if he still has it. And that is why I say that, look, the next weeks will be very, very crucial. He says he's going to consult. I want to see how the consultation will go. But I say, let that consultation be very broad. And the last thing on his mind should be running independent.
Okay, I get your point, Kojo. You were trying to clarify the point about the numbers.
The numbers I was referring to are not the super delegates numbers. I don't think those are representative enough. I agree with Winston on that. I was talking about his numbers the last time he put himself up for delegates to choose him or whichever alternatives were available. You remember how he fared?
Yeah.
Right? Akufo-Addo had what, 94% or something? He had 1 point something percent. Okay. The Asante bloc voted in that delegates conference. Yeah. Right? Did they choose him?
No, of course.
That's what I mean by the numbers don't support it.
But it's not because it was against Akufo-Addo.
But okay, so today let's put it. Let's
so
put that in
drew,
perspective.
so
let's put that.
theory.
Let's put that in perspective.
Yes.
Okay. Look, if the Asante Bloc's allegiance was to Alan and not the party, they would have chosen Alan, not Akufo-Addo. But their allegiance was clearly to the party. So it makes my point for me that if today he wants to test their allegiance between the party and him, he will lose again. Now, if it makes it a national issue, if he goes independent, right, and says, okay, now let the Ghanaian public choose the swing voters, plus, how do the numbers add up to him being president? First of all, in order to look, it would be a democratic revolution for people to choose someone other than the two dominant parties. Let's accept that. For a third force to win, any third force, whether independent or forming a new party, it would take a psychological revolution of the voter.
But we said almost the same thing about not having a single, very prominent majority in parliament. But that almost happened, right? We almost had.
I always thought that was possible. I didn't think it was such an impossibility.
Yes,
I always thought it would happen. All right. Although I never thought the margin,
would be this close, actually.
Right. But this one is different. Okay. It would take a complete change of the voter's psyche to choose a third force, right? So if you're going to gamble that you will be the third force that the people will choose, you have to have something special. Does Alan have something special?
Did P2B have anything special?
Oh, he absolutely did.
Really?
He absolutely did.
Social media videos.
Look, but he didn't win anyway.
Okay, of course. But he made a massive showing.
Yes.
Unprecedented Nigerian elections.
He did, because he was able to let people relate to the difference he was portraying.
Yeah.
Okay, people could relate. It's like Trump, right? We've seen a certain kind of politicians, and then this guy comes along and he says, oh, man, I'm racist. I don't care. I don't care. People related, because it was what they had always wanted but could never hope for. And suddenly it was there and available for them. So they voted for it. Okay, for him. I don't mean it.
No, you're talking about those qualities they voted for.
That's right. They voted for those qualities, right? Does Alan have any such thing, any such revolutionary characteristic that would swing enough votes? Because he will have to swing votes not only from the NPP, but from the NDC, from the swing, all of them, in order to become president.
New voters who did not care about any of these political parties anyway.
I keep asking this question. Can you remember a single Alan Kyeremanten quote? You have one of those memories. You remember everything. This man has been a politician for what? How many decades? Can you remember one popular quote that when you say it, everybody will say, yes, Alan said that?
As what he has said.
One quote, one thing he has said on a platform somewhere, into a microphone or somewhere, something, anything.
Just for the people, cash for the people.
Oh, my brother.
Oh yeah, I remember it was in Legon. I was roaming there when they were doing the Congress. It was just for the people.
So you mean when he made a very strong showing in his
yes 2007 yeah.
So at least there was a result to that slogany comment.
Saying it,
yes, he performed well.
Yeah.
Okay. Since then, anything at all?
Of course. I mean, you subscribe to the Benepsin theory that he peaked 15 years ago.
Yes.
And since that time,
it's
a lot of water has gone under that bridge.
It's been downhill.
A lot of changes have happened in our political landscape.
The personality to move people, to make that emotional decision, to vote differently from how they voted for decades, is not there. It's not his fault. He's a perfectly fine gentleman. I have a great time every time I speak to him. He speaks perfect Fanti. So I mean, I think he's a brilliant guy, but the thing that it would take for him to move people to vote for him as an independent or the leader of a new party, I'm sorry, it's not there. Whether or not he even has a way back into the NPP as a potential, the savior syndrome could work. If whoever they choose fails in 2024, then people might be forced to go for the next best.
Ahmed Benny wrote this. Could it also be that there was an inability to hold together the core team from 2007 to marshal ground support? Secondly, the leaders of A4P and core team, that's Alan for president, and core team of Alan, what is their grip and influence among party delegates? Thirdly, 90% of core Alan frontliners, and this is Benny's thoughts anyway, it says 90% of Alan's core frontliners were either disgruntled or fell out of favor with the current leadership. So they simply wanted to make a point. In fact, they were not working for Alan. They used him for revenge attacks. That's actually what Ahmed Benny was also saying. And he believes that there's a thin line between supporting Alan and being against the system. In this case, they didn't support Alan. They were against the leadership, and that's why he failed to see it. Anyway, of course, I mean, that is the thought that the gentleman had put up there. I mean, if you put these things together, if I'm a Ghanaian and I felt that these two political parties are not delivering on their goals that I want, and a lot of that sentiment is also on the streets because of economic hardship and other things that are happening, people tend to think that a system which has not delivered democratic dividends for a very long time should not be supported. Would it not be revolutionary to have somebody who might even come from the whole stock saying that I'm leading a new charter into the future? This one's not just going independent, but also having a different political system. Oh, I didn't know you were there. I wanted you to bring you in. Forgive me, please. Forget about what I'm saying and please make your point quickly, Winston.
No, I'm actually going to make your point, a point based on what you're saying.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And this is the other point. So, yes, if you're looking at Alan Kyeremanten, if he leaves the NPP stock, and decides to contest as an independent candidate, while he may not win the election, the whole idea of a third force, the whole idea of doing away with the duopoly, and look, I've had discussions with certain people who have been pushing for a new kind of leadership. They say enough of the NPP and ND.
Yeah.
And they are willing to embrace him, for instance. Because for them, whatever it would take, for instance, to push this election into a second round, so that the political parties would make some concessions, is what they're looking forward to. But again, the point is that I do not see an Alan Kyeremanten independent candidate winning election 2024. At best, he could become a kingmaker.
And
but the question is, what kingmaker do you want to become? You will not become president. You will not become vice president. So, this is where he must critically consider his options.
I mean, is the vice presidential element completely closed up to him?
It's not.
Can he today, I mean, these are politicians, right? Their cards are always on the table. Can he today go and sit with the people and say, well, I may not be leading in this race, but why don't I just join the current team so that I can further my interest going into the future? would it be completely absurd? Would it be unthinkable for that to be the conversation?
I've got to say, it wouldn't be a bad place for him to land. It wouldn't. Because, look, if indeed they form a ticket that can beat the opposition and break the 8, he then becomes next in line.
Then every other subsequent extension is possible.
Right. Plus, he's now in a position where he's the natural successor. He's the establishment candidate. The next time they go up, the next time they go up to the delegates, he's the establishment candidate. The resources are on his side. He can win the candidacy and then possibly bring the 16 or whatever it's going to take.
Yeah, I'm thinking because we have an 8-year cycle. But immediately you extend beyond the 8, the thinking that you just had 4 years would have been quite the different person.
Yeah.
Because when we're going to this election, apart from John Dramani Mahama, there wouldn't have been anybody who's been in the election before.
That's
so indeed, within the NPP, everybody who contests and goes into the election has a possibility of going for 8 years.
Absolutely. So here's the thing now. If indeed that is where he wants to land, and it's not a bad place to land, he has to be very strategic about it.
Yeah,
right?
so
and Winston will tell you, they have to come to him.
Yeah.
See, they have to come to him because he has certain qualities that they are actually looking for, apart from the ethnic background, complete, pure Ashanti. It would be a unifying ticket.
Yeah.
It would be a unifying ticket. And the NPP is in need of some unifying at the moment, right? So there are lots of logical reasons why he would be considered, but they have to come to him.
But Winston, his complaints about the process, about it being skewed and all of that, isn't already pushing him away from any possible negotiation that may result in a favorable end?
Well, I mean, I learned over the weekend some senior members in the party were still calling to say, oh, the vice president is still on the table. So the party will do everything possible to ensure that he doesn't move away. And, all of these things also have political capital.
Yeah.
So, Raymond, having said that, our time is up. We'll talk about this.
No, hold on. Talking about time is up. I think he has been magnanimous. He says we can, because of popular public appeal, since we serve the masses of this country, especially when I'm in the seat, then the people are here. Yeah. So we can do a couple of minutes attached to this. The thinking I want us to now put to all of this is, see, if Alan Kyeremanten, for example, is no longer the most prominent KOFOR faction leader, who would it be next? Yeah, because of course, there should be a thinking about the future of that particular section at all times. Political parties realign, but of course, they look at the future of the people and what is going to happen after him. I'm not ruling him out completely, but assuming this process leads to a way that he might have even exited the party, who will be the replacement?
Well, Raymond, I do not have the permission of anybody to put his name out.
I get you.
So I can't put anybody's name out at this point in time. But I do know those who are in line.
Yeah.
But I can't put their names out.
Are they Asante people who are looking for vice presidential candidates somewhere else?
No.
Not at all.
No.
They have already lost their potential of being at all.
Yeah.
I see. No, because, see, political parties are run in such a way that even when there's a form of structure already in place, the future of the party is being planned one way or the other.
Yeah.
Younger people, and I mean, of course, we have been told about how the Kojo Yankson, the Samia Okus are, if Abronya this is need to believe, I mean, some people are lazing false boots, but are lazing boots to actually try and be replacements going into the future. The likes of Patrick Boama, long-time rumored to be one of the people prepared to be actually built up in a way that makes a lot of sense. I've heard the gentleman, what's his name? The current Minister for Lands and Natural Resources. Yes. Refusing to be blemished in any way because he thinks there's a future that ought to be built one way or the other. Politicians have unfettered ambition. Of course, you join the politics because you have some interest somewhere else to protect anyway. So that's why I'm asking some of these questions. And now it will play to the roles these people will play in the current uncertainty around the party.
Look, it might surprise you who will end up emerging. Winston might not have permission to mention any people's names, but being in a queue, as Alan has proved, is no guarantee of anything.
Yeah, it used to be guaranteed, but
not anymore. Look, there are no permanent friends, only permanent interests. So we might be shocked by who steps up, if indeed Alan, takes a back seat or whatever. You might be shocked at who steps up, because the Kufuor faction is the most politically astute. Look, the people...
They couldn't put up Alan to actually whisper this.
Look, I've got to tell you something. I think they were held to ransom. Okay. Right? By their own integrity. To back the person who they backed from the beginning. I think it's important that they be seen to be loyal. Okay. That's important. Okay? But at some point, if there is no longer any need for them to hold that allegiance, you might be shocked at the names that pop up, because they are a very pragmatic group, very, very politically astute. They play chess with this thing. So you might be shocked who they end up
springing up.
Yes.
Into the space. There's also the conversation. So, of course, nobody will dispute the fact that Dr. Bawumia is an establishment candidate, but that has been predominantly the case of the Nanado group, right? Will Dr. Bawumia, if he is successful and moves on to the next level, establish a certain Dombo tradition that becomes a major bloc on its own?
Okay, let me say
this quickly. Which is different from the Nanado group in any way.
Let me say this quickly. Sorry, does Winston want to go first?
Yes, Winston, let me hear you quickly, because Kojo just spoke.
Raymond.
Yes.
You know, I've always had issues with the NPP Buzia Dankwa Dombo tradition.
Yeah.
I have asked myself, these persons that they talk about, what are their ideologies? What are their philosophies? Don't worry.
Yeah,
what
that's
are
true.
They? Raymond, what are they? What are they?
Factions.
So, yes, ordinarily, once Dr. Bawumia comes into office, if it is successful, it is expected that he will build his own following within the party.
Yeah.
I mean, now he will be riding on the shoulders of others. But once you get into office, I'm sorry, you still cannot be running on the shoulders of others. People must now begin to run on your shoulders.
Absolutely.
And they run on the shoulders of you running on your shoulders. So, I mean, automatically you're expecting to also build his own team. As to whether the people who brought him would allow him is another issue.
This is a party that has been in opposition for a very long time. They came into power. They basically now have the same winning, almost strategy with the, not strategy, winning numbers like the NDC. The NPP, whenever it wins elections, I mean, since somewhere around 2000, has had higher numbers of winning percentages than the NDC. Would it be a make or break period? Mindful of the fact that this is a party that removed this general secretary and national chairman and still went ahead to win the next election. But will this current turmoil break the front of the party and disintegrate it and cause a return to a 2007 situation which really made them lose power?
Look, the truth is, no matter what happens, the NPP have an uphill task to win in 2024. It's going to be tough. Nobody is expecting big margins. That is if they win. Okay, nobody is expecting big margins. But the thing is this, you know the question you asked Winston about whether or not,
Bawumia established a traditional.
Look, let me ask you this. Was Atta Mills like Rawlings?
No.
Was Akufo-Addo like Kufuor?
No.
Was Mahama like Atta Mills?
No.
Okay. So look, everybody comes with their own fresh, different. So whoever wins, whether it's Bawumia or Kennedy Japan or whoever emerges flag bearer, if they are fortunate enough to make the numbers to win in 2024, you cannot expect a continuation of Akufo-Addo. You can't. It's just not possible. It's not possible. It won't be the same people around them. It won't be the same personal interest that fuels than whatever national activities they they pursue. No, it's going to be
it was
different.
believed that Mills would not be his own man. I mean, the first 1 or 2 years of the tenure became problematic because the man who was quiet and deemed to be not very much troublesome was establishing his own territory.
Exactly. So the establishment candidate that people think will be just a simple continuation of Akufo-Addo, history doesn't support it. History does not support that.
But it's not very different terrains. But of course, I mean, we should be wrapping up. There's a question.
You don't want to wrap up.
Wasted. They say now we should wrap up on this conversation. We should be coming back next week again. I mean, at some point, I think we all should plead with Mr. Kyeremanten to make the decision quickly so that next week you can have a conversation on facts and realities we have seen, not just conjecture and all the usual lies. So, I mean, Mr. Kyeremanten, this is a public appeal. Whichever way you are, help State of Play get it into that particular conversation. I was asking Kojo that question. Is it make or break time for the NPP? Winston, briefly on that.
Well, the NPP has a lot of work to do. The NPP should not be seen going into election 2024 as a broken party.
Yeah.
So whatever it takes, the NPP should be talking by now. Yeah. Politics is about numbers. Yeah. After all, the NDC in 2007 or 2006 thereabouts got the National Reform Party back into its fold. And we saw what happened. Even the DFP,
yes,
who better someone today you have Fritz the Day, is back in the NDC. So that's always a possibility. And I will end on this note. Years ago, in 2011, I think it was 2012, I met a group of men at Antimony. They were planning the formation of the NPP. Some of those persons are in Parliament today on the ticket of the NDC. The moment Professor Mills died, they changed their mind.
That's true.
They were spoken to, and they shelved all those ideas. It's always important to dialogue.
Yeah. Now, I get your point 100%. I think that's where we can draw the nine curtains on today's show. Maybe I'll give you the last word, 10 seconds. You see the thing you'll be doing to me on the Spot Morning Show? 10 seconds, stick to it. Yeah.
Alan has made a big decision, but it's only half of the decision. The other half will determine the rest of his political career. He can't take it lightly. As Winston says, he needs to consult as broadly as possible and make a decision that will place him in the best stead if really politics is what he wants to do for a living.
This is the people's state of play. That's where we end today's show. Thank you, Winston. And of course, you should be getting back to work quickly. And Kojo, yeah, we have work to do tomorrow morning too.
Absolutely.
So thank you also out there for joining today's edition.